Now, before the break, we were telling you about a story that you're really not going to hear many other places. And that is the story of how China has been secretly poisoning the planet while all the other nations have been responsible. That's right. While we thought that everybody was keeping their word on ozone emissions and taking seriously their responsibility to all nations and all peoples, China has been releasing so much chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. Do you remember those? Yeah, they've been banned worldwide since 1987. Well, come to find out that China is releasing so much of those banned CFCs into the atmosphere that the ozone layer is again being destroyed. Now, does anybody remember this? Some of you may not be old enough, but when I was a kid, CFCs were all the rage. Environmentalists at the time breathlessly explained how CFCs were destroying the ozone layer that protects all life on this planet, and that if we did not stop releasing CFCs into the atmosphere, disaster and eventual destruction of the entire planet would follow. Of course, in light of all this hysteria, all nations agreed to stop allowing the production, sales, and use of CFCs worldwide. In other words, chlorofluorocarbons were banned. This happened in the 1980s. That's at least 30 years ago. And yet, in 2018, just last year, scientists began to notice that the ozone layer was again being rapidly depleted. After a little research on worldwide CFC levels, it became obvious that China had begun releasing dramatic amounts of CFCs into the atmosphere. The release has actually been pinpointed to the northeast coast of China. Now, China did this, of course, while claiming to abide by international environmental standards. The plain truth is that the Chinese cannot be trusted to keep their word. They do not invest cultural value to the keeping of their word, particularly when dealing with foreigners like us. So we should know where we stand, and we should respond accordingly. And we should never agree to take their word for something or to trust that they will honor an agreement they have made. That's why when they tried to renege on the recent trade deal and remove all of the enforcement language that they'd already agreed to, the teeth of the agreement, so to speak, our U.S. trade negotiators, including U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, walked away from the table saying that no deal was better than a bad deal. These guys really understand China and how the game is played. Folks, God bless America, and God bless our President, Donald Trump, for finally standing up to the Chinese, for finally saying that currency manipulation, the theft of our hard-earned intellectual property, and the forced transfer of our technologies are not a part of free trade. In fact, they're the very opposite of free trade. China has been slathering its centrally planned and communist-controlled economy with the false veneer of being capitalistic and open to free trade for years, when the reality is their behavior is the exact opposite. Always watch the behavior and be careful about listening to the words. As Roxanne pointed out last week, some cultures actually admire the ability to speak with a forked tongue and the deceptive aspects of negotiation. We have to recognize what we're dealing with and act accordingly. In this case, I'm thankful that President Trump is the captain of our ship because it's clear he understands China's game and he's up to the task of outmaneuvering the Chinese. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.